Right, well, Glenn, I've just come back from Edgbaston. It's a funny feeling. We're slightly World Cup hungover, and to say that it doesn't quite feel like an Ashes tomorrow, don't take it the wrong way, but we're in a bit of a strange place over here at the moment. I suppose the Aussies will feel like that, would you?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen the Aussies yet. I arrived a few days ago, so it's just great to be here. But it was a massive World Cup, and the way it finished on such an incredible high, where you had to go. It was a tie, and then the Super Over was a tie, and then it was a count back on the boundary. So it would have been massive emotions there, and then you're on a bit of a high. And I always found after you have a big win, it's brilliant, and then 2-3 days after you just feel average, like you're just coming back to normal, and it takes a while to get over it and move on. I was only lucky enough to win 3 World Cups. We didn't find it that hard. I'm not sure what you're worried about.
You're still exhausted, like you said. But it's funny because the Aussies, of course, have had about 3 weeks since they got beaten here in a very lively game by England. But they've actually they've gone away and just actually focused fully on the Ashes since then, which I think is a bit of an advantage, don't you think?
Probably a little bit of an advantage, because most tours these days, you turn up, you may get 1 or 2 games if you're lucky, and then you're straight into the series. So they've had a little bit of time on the ground. The guys that were here for the World Cup probably a lot more relaxed. I know Cameron Bancroft and others played a bit of county cricket. So I think they're pretty relaxed. They're settled. Didn't have the emotions of the World Cup. They didn't play too well in that semi-final. But, way it goes. Rose Bowl tour match. I'm not sure if they would have got a lot out of that. There was apparently the ball was doing plenty off the pitch there,
which they asked for. Apparently, they asked for good English conditions and the Duke ball to try and get themselves used to it. Actually,
So, if that's what the wicket's going to be like this Test series, we might have a very quick series. But that probably did a little bit too much down there. You want your batsmen to get a bit of a feel for it. So for the bowlers, I guess, when it's moving around that much, it's about getting the ball in the right area, just getting it fuller and the natural variation. So I think for the bowlers, it's actually probably not bad to get them used to the conditions here.
Yeah. That semi-final, if any of the Aussies had any thoughts about what Edgbaston is like, those perhaps who hadn't been before, was a bit of a taste. I mean, it was like a bear garden, the noise. And it is. It'll be like that tomorrow, won't it? I mean, it will be raucous. I see Tim Payne has perhaps dipped his toe in there, saying, "Oh, there's worse places at Edgbaston." I think they're going to try and prove him wrong tomorrow. Do you think that'll get to the Aussies at all? I mean, when he's fielding in front of that Hollies stand, and when David Warner comes out to bat, and Steve Smith comes out to bat, do you think they really are prepared for that?
Both those guys had a little bit of a taste for the World Cup. They came up against England twice, I think they probably are. It's what is it? 16 months ago. It's a long time ago now. They served their punishment, which was quite harsh or severe when you think about other players that have been done for ball tampering. So hopefully for them, they just have to get out there, and the best thing they can do is start scoring runs with it and do their job with the bat. The more runs they score, the quieter the crowd gets. And I always looked at it as when I played in front of the crowds here, if they were giving me a hard time at fielding on the boundary, I always thought it was a compliment. If they're not talking to you and not getting stuck into you, it's because they're not too worried about you. So that's the way I always took it, and try to have a bit of fun. But slightly different kettle of fish with those boys. So they're both fairly mentally strong, but they're going to be tested.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because they're such key players in that Australian side, and yet they both seem very different characters to me. I mean, Smith, sort of jittery and looks nervous and so on. I mean, maybe it's just a facade, whereas Warner, of course, just walks out there and it doesn't look like anything would bother him. I mean, do you have any worries about either of them? And I suppose particularly I'm going at Smith here to see whether he will actually be able to cope with a couple of months, 5 games of that.
I think he probably found it pretty tough being away from the game because he loves the game so much and he gets into it so much and he's so passionate about it. I think the best thing for him is to be back playing. I know he has all these little idiosyncrasies when he's batting and that, but that's when he's at his best. They're both very different characters. Smith, very introverted. Warner, very extroverted. So, but when they're both on top of their game, they're pretty decent players to watch.
I saw Justin Langer having a long conversation with Smith, actually just near the Hollies stand. I don't suppose they were talking about it, but it's quite interesting to see the two of them chatting away there. I think Langer's obviously played quite a strong role, hasn't he, with Smith and the whole rehabilitation thing?
Oh yeah, I would have thought so. You know, to have someone like Justin in the team is brilliant. You know, his two favourite words, what I think he brings to the team is respect and discipline, and probably two things that the Australian team needed at that time. So he's been brilliant. To have Ricky Ponting there during the Ashes, I think Steve Waugh came in, did a little bit of stuff too. So having those guys around, I think, is just absolutely brilliant, especially for the young guys coming in. You know, you've got three legends of the game that they can talk to one-on-one and just get a bit of feel for. So, yeah, hopefully that's had an impact. But, you know, nothing can really prepare you for first ball tomorrow except getting out there and actually doing it.
Yeah. Before the World Cup game, of course, they all wandered around barefoot, didn't they, to get a bit of a feel for the grass and the land and the soil of Edgbaston. They haven't done it this time.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably taken a little bit too far.
It was quite amusing. So, come on, Glenn, let's get the nitty-gritty then. Yeah. From an English perspective, a bit worried about the batting, as you obviously know. And Joe Root's gone up to number 3. He tried to convince us today that he wants to do it. Well, he said he wanted to do it last year and did it for a few games and then went back down again. And then look at the Aussies. I guess it's the same sort of business, isn't it? I mean, a lot of flakiness about the batting.
Yeah, no, I think both teams are strengths their bowling, and it's the batting that's a little bit iffy. And you think, to me, it's up to the team that bats better and handles the pace attack from both teams are going to win this. Is going to win this series. And you know, England, you know, they've been struggling for a little bit. You know, top 3 batsmen haven't scored any runs really. I know Jason Roy scored 7 against Ireland the other day, but he's, you know, it might take him a little while to get a feel for Test cricket. It's a little bit different to one days where he's done very well, and the Ashes is a pretty big you know, series to come in on. So, and the other guys, if they get off to a bad start, it could be a very, very tough series for them. But you know, if Joe Root goes up to number 3, interesting, you're saying he wanted to bat there. If he wanted to bat there, he would have batted there. Well, we always said the best batsman bats number 3. Yeah. David Boone was there. You know, Ricky Ponting, that's where he wanted. You know, Steve Waugh was a quality batsman as well, but he sort of was around that number 4, especially that number 5. So for some reason, Smith and Root over the past sort of 3 or 4 years have preferred that number 4 posse. So, and the fact that Root came up to number 3 and then dropped back down tells me he probably didn't like it as much as he thought or he's making out he is.
What do you make of the Jason Roy thing? I mean, you know, you as a bowler, to have an opening batsman really coming at you. I mean, Sehwag was obviously a great example of someone who did it very well. Yeah. Would you be looking at Roy and thinking, okay, interesting, he's going to try and take me down?
It's about getting the ball in the right spot. You mentioned Sehwag there, and you know, he could take any bowling attack down. He'd like to get out there and play his shots, but if it was moving around a little bit, you just get it on that off stump, and just one would seam back. The ones that seam back through the gate knocked him over for fun. And so on a pitch that's probably going to maybe do a little bit, especially in English conditions. I'm not sure about Edgbaston here, whether it will seam around a huge amount. But on a pitch that's doing a little bit, you go out and play your shots. One of them's got your name on it sooner or later.
Yeah. And we're all surprised at the strong possibility of Mitchell Starc not playing tomorrow. I mean, you think Australian team now, and you think Mitchell Starc. Does that seem strange to you?
Yes and no. You'd love him in the team bowling at his best, because when he's bowling at his best, swinging the new ball and then coming back with reverse old, when the ball's old, getting reverse swing, he's as good as anyone in the world. But when he's not swinging it and the radar's not switched on, then you know, it's a totally different kettle of fish. And on a pitch that's doing a bit, you need guys that can just, you know, hit that same area, ball after ball, and you're going to take wickets that way. You're not going to come in and, you know, bowl wicket taking. You don't need to bowl wicket taking deliveries on a pitch that's doing a bit. If it's flat and it's not going to really seam a lot round that much, and there's not a huge amount of pace, Mitchell Starc plays because he's got tremendous pace through the air, and the lengths he bowls, he becomes dangerous. So I think a lot will depend on the pitch, or probably has. Yeah. But then, you know, you've got James Pattinson there, and I think the selectors really want to play him. Yes. And they really want to play Pat Cummins because he's bowling incredibly well. So there's 2 guys, and then the third posse who's going to fill that. If Mitchell Starc's bowling well, left armour, you know, first pick because it offers variation.
And Pattinson, I mean, he's been so long out of the game, hasn't he? what, 29, I think, years old. I mean, are you excited about him coming back?
Yeah, I am. I like the way he goes about it. I like his attitude. The few chances he's got, he's absolutely loved it. He brings something different to what the attack has at the moment. Mitchell Starc, great bowler. Hazelwood, great bowler. Pat Cummins, great bowler. But they lack a certain aggression, real aggression, going in for the kill. In Australia we call it, that real bit of mongrel about, and he has that plenty. As soon as he walks across that white rope, that white line fever, he's got that aggression. He's your enforcer without a doubt, and I think that's what the Australian team needs. And with as long as it's controlled.
Well, that's the point. I was going to ask you about that. I mean, given there is focus on the Aussies in this series, isn't there? And the reformed characters, I don't know, however you want to call it, but just general behavioural things. Yeah. Do you think there is going to be a spotlight on the players particularly?
Of course, and there will be, and there has been since then. But the Australian way is to get out there, play hard, but play fair. Yes. And that's what they need to get back to. They don't need to go out there and be goody two-shoes and smile and not say anything.
You'd miss it if Aussies played like that.
Nobody wants to see that. So they just have to get back. Good, hard, tough, fair cricket, and and show the crowd over here what they're capable of, and
respect.
Just keep it simple.
Yeah, exactly. Go on then. I dread this every time I do this. The McGrath prediction. Don't say 5-0. You're not going to say 5-0.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Oh, what are you going to say?
I'm sitting on the fence. I'm actually making a prediction for this one. I said, nope. Everyone expects me to make a prediction. They expect me to come out and say 5-0. So I'm not saying anything.
This is the new Australia.
No, I'm waiting for the end of this first test. And then I will make a prediction.
I do not recognise.
It will either be 5-0 or 4-1, but I'll make a prediction at the end of this first test. But no,
Wow.
When I played, it was easy to make a prediction because I actually believed it. The team I was lucky enough to play in, I felt I had a little bit of control over contributing to that. And I couldn't see us. I couldn't bring myself to say we're going to draw a match, let alone lose one. So, and I guess I've made a rod for my own back since then, where I've never said the opposition's going to win a game. So I thought, I'll take it easy now. Just sit on the fence and just wait for that first test underway. When it finishes, then I might give you something.
Nothing could illustrate more the change in Australian cricket, Glenn, than that.
Well, last series I came out and I said, I was thinking I was going to say 6-0, but there's only 5 tests, so I'll go 5-0. So, it's fine to be positive, but you've got to keep it in check to a degree.